Movie House Cinemas, proud sponsors of Conversations with Gerry Kelly. Treat yourself to a movie. Relax in VIP recliner seating without the VIP price tag. At Cityside, Glengormley, Mackara and Coleraine. Enjoy the show.
Good evening and welcome to Conversations with me, Gerry Kelly. My guest this evening is the modest recipient of many music awards, including 17 platinum and gold albums for her singing. In fact, she is Scotland's biggest selling female singer of all time. She also has 2 Olivier Awards for her roles in Blood Brothers and Spend, Spend, Spend. Now, her shows have taken her all over the world, but rarely does she miss the opportunity to perform here in Northern Ireland. I'm really delighted to welcome the wonderful Barbara Dickson.
Thanks for having me. Hello.
Great to see you again.
And lovely to see you, Gerry.
By your own admission, Barbara, you're a hard woman to pigeonhole because you're a folk singer, you're a pop singer, you're an actress who sings, and you are a singer who acts. How do you primarily view yourself?
As a musician. I mean, I started off as a person accompanying themselves to be able to sing songs. That's why I took up the guitar when I was 12. You know, I could play the piano before that, but I didn't sing, and you can't take your piano with you.
Right.
You know, so I took up the guitar so I could transport the guitar and sing to the sound of my own guitar, and I liked that sound. And that's what I see myself as being basically, and everything else has kind of come off that.
Was that basically in the folk idiom?
Yes, absolutely. So I won't go through all the things that happened, but one transition which absolutely ties in with what I've just said was my friend Willie Russell, who is the luminous Scouse playwright. I met him in the folk scene. He came to Sandy Bells at the festival with his college from Liverpool to perform. I met him there, but when he wrote a play about 3 years later about the Beatles, which was commissioned by the Liverpool Everyman, he asked me if I would come and do the music. Now, nobody had ever heard of me, and they said, can't we get someone in the company of actors to sing the music? And Willie said, no, my friend will do it better than anyone in the company. And they all went, oh, we don't know who this is. And I came in and did an audition, and that was it. And really, that was the transition. But it could have been a disaster, but it wasn't. It was a huge success.
You're talking about George, Paul, John, Ringo and Bert.
Yes.
Now, we'll come to that in a moment.
Yeah.
But before that, you were at school, you were playing the guitar, you were singing in the local folk clubs and so on. But then you got this opportunity to go to Denmark.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Well, I come from a fairly cautious working class Scottish family, and ordinary people, no kind of illusions about what you could be in this life. You know, you went to work and you hopefully got married and you had your children to settle down. And I lived in Dunfermline. That's where I'm from. And so, therefore, I got a job when I left school. And I was working in the civil service, which if you couldn't do anything in those days, you could get into the civil service. It was the last option. And so I was working in the civil service, and you're absolutely right. I was offered a 6-week engagement at a place called the Vice Versus in Tivoli Gardens in Copenhagen, which was on the edge of the Tivoli Gardens. And there was a balcony, and all these people would come out and sing this song in Danish, and I just la-la-la'd along. And it was to say, come in and join us and listen to our music. And that's how you got people to come in and watch the show. Now, people had already been and gone and told me about this. And I said, oh, that sounds great. Offered 6 weeks. And I went to see my personnel officer, and I said, can I go and do this? He said, no, this is the civil service. You can't have 6 weeks leave. had to go and sing in Denmark. Don't be ridiculous. And I said, well, can I go I don't need any money. I'll go unpaid. He said, no, we don't do that either. And I said, okay, I'll just have to resign. And before I knew it, I'd said it. And I knew, even then, I remember I was never very ambitious, but I remember thinking, if I don't go and do this, I'll regret it for the rest of my life.
Yes, and that turned out that way. But when you come back, you had no job.
Nothing.
You weren't well enough known to be earning a lot of money at the folk
I was
scene.
totally skint.
And then Willie Russell happened.
Yeah, and it was quite a while because my friend Hamish Imlach helped me.
Yeah.
And Hamish brought me to some folk clubs in England, and I got some work and started to work it further away. And I found out recently he did that with various people. He did that with John Martin and Dick Gaughan and one or two others. I didn't know that. He got them in the car, took them off and showed them off to some people in Liverpool and Sheffield and Newcastle and stuff, and they got work.
If it's not a rude question, what kind of money were you earning at doing gigs back then?
Well, when I started off, I mean, we're talking about, sort of mid to late 60s. I think tops would be about £12.
And what were you making at work?
Oh, much less than that. My dad got £9 a week. Wow. And I could get £12 a week for £12 a show. Yeah. But when I got my manager in 1972, he used to say to people, oh, yes, you'd like her to come. Oh, no, I'm afraid that's not enough money. I didn't know what he they were saying, we can give her that amount. And he went, oh, no, I'm afraid she doesn't work for that. No, why don't you have a couple of singers' nights and save up the money and come back to us? And I went, oh, I'll never work again. But it worked, you see, because I was more money. People thought, well, she must be worth it.
Yes.
I could never have done that.
Yes. Let's talk about Willie Russell, the man who wrote Educating Rita, Blood Brothers, go on and on.
Yeah, Shirley
Valentine.
Yeah.
He offered you this job in George, Paul, John and Ringo and Bert.
Yeah.
And your role was to sing Beatles songs.
Yes.
How many Beatles songs were you asked to sing?
I think there must have been about 14 to 16. There were a few fragments and some complete ones. And first of all, they were thinking of maybe sharing the live music with taped music of the actors, maybe miming to Beatles tracks. But everybody decided that it was an evolutionary process, and they decided that they just did.
You must have been way out of your comfort zone singing Beatles songs.
Well, I was, because I had to play the piano more than anything else, because I hadn't played the piano since I was about 12. And somebody had to play the piano because there were only 3 musicians because they couldn't afford any more. So there was bass, drums and piano, and the other 2 guys could double on guitar and bass. So we did what we could with 3 people, but somebody had to make a noise. So I opted to play the piano, and I just got the Beatles complete books out and transposed them. And
you did Penny Lane, Lucy the Sky.
Yeah, we did.
You named them, you did it.
Your Mother Should Know. And we did a killer version of Little Help from My Friends, which was more like the Joe Cocker version, yeah.
Well, it was a huge success.
It was. Yeah.
And it transferred from Liverpool to London.
Yes.
You were hooked at that stage, were you? You were going down a path now that you probably never thought of before.
Well, I wasn't afraid of going down that path because I was still with all these lovely people that I was in with the show. But it was really when the show finished in 1975, in the middle of that year, I went, oh my goodness, what happens now? Do I go back to folk clubs? Yeah. I didn't have any work in folk clubs because I'd been away for so long. And I got signed up by Robert Stigwood's record label, and they wanted to put me together with a producer and make an album. And it took a while, but eventually I made a single with Junior Campbell. And Junior Campbell had been in the Marmalade. He was from Glasgow. Oh, yes. And he was great, wonderful person. I love him to this day. And he and I did Answer Me together. And that
was your first big one, wasn't it?
That was released towards the end of 1975. And it just disappeared under all the Christmas music. And we thought, well, nice try, but next time. But anyway, it crawled out from under the Christmas music in January 1976 and went shooting up the charts. It got into the top 10.
And did that open doors for you then?
Oh, yeah. I mean, everything changed. I mean, a crowd of little girls were running along Brook Street in London, and I'd been to the record company, and all these little girls were running along the street, and I sort of put my back against the railings to let them run past. They were running towards me. So it was hilarious.
Well, you were a pop star at this stage.
I was. For 10 years.
Were you happy being a pop star?
No. Because I didn't like that sort of fame. I mean, I love playing and I love people coming to see me play. So I had an audience and I had an attentive public who were interested in what I was doing. That was very worth having. But there's an awful lot of business people around you in that situation, and they all think they know what you should do. And so therefore, being an artist is very difficult. You have to fight your corner. Yeah. And very often you're the only person in that corner, because managers also say, but that is a financial disaster doing that. Why wouldn't you do this? Because I would say, because I don't like that. I don't want to do that.
Yeah, but you were on a sort of roundabout, were you not? You were doing the two Ronnies. The biggest show on television.
Yeah, I did the two Ronnies, and that was to promote the new album. And the new album was the Answer Me album, and it was very good. It had things like Lean On Me and Drift Away, and it had some songs of mine on it. And it was artistically satisfying to me. But you have to kind of, it's like, you know, the chariot race in Ben-Hur. You're having to kind of keep yourself under control, because they will sort of encourage you to be miles ahead of yourself. And this is, I think, I sound pompous, but it's because I'm an artist. I'm not just a person who's won a talent competition on television. I'm not trying to be famous. I'm trying to be in charge of what I can do best, which is singing. And the people who like me and know me will know that some choices I've made have been excellent. Like most of my hits have been songs that have a real, they're interesting songs.
Yes.
And I've managed to say, yeah, that's great. I like that. But I don't want people to think I said no to everything. But there were so many things. I've dodged a lot of bullets, actually.
Was money important to you at the time? Because with that comes money.
No, money's never been important.
Really?
I just wanted to earn a living. I've never wanted to show off. I always think people's managers have Rolls Royces and the artist drives around in a Mini because they know who they are. And they don't need it. Some artists are like that, but I think it's an insecurity. The more good you are, you don't need. I mean, Bob Dylan's never driven around a Rolls Royce, has he? Yeah. You know what I mean?
Willie Russell came knocking again.
Yeah, he did.
With Blood Brothers.
Yeah.
And he offered you which is the most magnificent musical, I think, one of the greatest.
I'm glad you like it.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
And he offered you the role of Mrs. Johnson, the role. What did you think? Because she's a Diane the Will Liverpudlian.
Yep.
And there he was asking this Scottish girl to come and play this part.
Well, there's a couple of things that you have either deliberately or might have mistakenly missed out of there. And one was that my mother was from Liverpool. My dad was Scottish. Yes. I once said to Stan Boardman, the comedian, I once said to him, no, my dad was a Scot, but he was in the Liverpool police. And Stan Boardman said, that was some beat. Like he went home every night to Dunfermline. Anyway, he met my mother in Liverpool because he was in the Liverpool police, and then he was seconded onto firefighting during the war, and he met my mother, and he got invalided out of the police because he'd got rheumatic fever, which was an illness people don't get anymore because it can be cured with antibiotics. It was like terrible bacterial infections. And so he had to go back to Scotland and took my mother. But my mother said, all the time she was in Scotland. She had a nice time and she liked people. She had no problem. But she said if she was given the opportunity, she'd go straight back to Merseyside.
Really?
Yeah, and she did eventually. She went to live in Southport.
Well, you bought her a house at one stage, didn't you?
I did.
Didn't you? After you made a few bob, you bought
Yeah, yeah, I did. And my dad went, and my dad said, I'm not going. And then he did go at the last minute.
Class.
I had to carry him out in his armchair, put him in the van. Sorry, I'm digressing.
No, but there you were in a musical theatre, which is another string to your bow.
Yeah.
How much did you enjoy it, and how difficult was it to make that transfer?
Well, I
had to act.
Yeah, I had no discipline as an actor, none at all, because I just didn't know how to do it. And I think if you go to drama school and you're trained, you can, pace yourself. There are people, as old, if not older than me, who do quite long runs in the West End. Yeah. And I think, how can they do that? But they do it because they pace themselves. Now, I came on like my life depended on it every single night of the week. And after 3 months in Liverpool, I started to feel absolutely exhausted. And I did get better, but then it happened again in London, and it was off.
Yeah, not only were you exhausted, but you suffered unbelievably from stage fright.
Yes, yeah, because somebody made a mistake.
What is stage fright?
It's when you just become kind of paralysed with fear that something is going to go wrong.
After all that you had done,
yes,
after your Top of the Pops, all the rest, it's very interesting because a lot of people have suffered from it. Laurence Olivier had it for something like 30 years. So it doesn't really matter who you are. You can, Ian Holm, the wonderful Ian Holm, yes. He was doing something like Hamlet and he got it and he didn't go on stage for about 30 years. How long did it last with you?
Well, it lasted a long time, but I just managed to kind of deal with it. I thought it would only be in the theatre that I would have it because it happened there. But when I came back into music, I still carried it around with me. But I just went on, thinking it would pass. And sometimes you can feel very like it might be coming back again. If it's an enormous thing that you're required to do, you think, say this goes wrong. So, but I don't beat myself up anymore. If it goes wrong, it goes wrong.
Well, you were back in, as you say, and not only did you go back in, but you won an Olivier award for your acting.
Yeah,
not bad for somebody who wasn't trained in acting.
That's right. It was the show was absolutely amazing. I was it took me a long time to agree to do it because I'd never acted and I didn't want to. Obviously, I didn't want to let Willie and Chris Bond, the director, down. The work was very good. I didn't want to not do it to the best of my ability. I just wanted it to be great. And Mrs. Johnson, when I played her, was like a combination of my mother and my Auntie Ivy and my granny. And she was like a sort of all rolled into one. And I knew Mrs. Johnson. I mean, she gives away one of her children. And everybody on the face of it, without knowing the story, goes, how could she do that? And a man once said to me on an interview, I wasn't speaking directly to him, he was down the line somewhere, and he said to me, what does it feel like playing a slut?
Mrs. Johnson, a slut?
That's exactly what I said. I was so angry with him. And it was like he was calling me a slut. I was very, very, very angry. I said, Mrs. Johnson is not a slut. Like we were talking about a real person.
Yeah.
She's a very respectable woman. And she was a very respectable woman. She did her best for that child. Absolutely. So I've invested, as you could tell, a lot in that. And I just kind of keeled over halfway through.
You almost invested in Evita. Weren't you asked, or were nearly asked, to play Eva Pearl?
Well, Tim and Andrew called me in to sing a song that they had written for Evita before the recording was made, because remember, I wasn't in the show ever.
Yes.
I was only on the recording. And they said, would you sing this song? And it was a very kind of tempo kind of Ethel Merman-y kind of song. And I sang it, and I knew when I was singing it, I thought, this isn't what I do. I don't sing like this. I've got the sad voice that everybody likes, you know. I don't sing those sort of big show songs. It's not me flourishing at anything. So they said, eventually, do Another Suitcase in Another Hall, which was perfect.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a sad song.
Yes.
And it was another huge...
Yeah, and it was... people really like it.
Liam Page and yourself.
Yeah.
Tell me about that, because that was a massive... That was number one for 4 or 5 weeks.
It was a long, long time. Elaine had done all of her work on chess long before I was invited to come and play this minor part, which was the wife of the Russian. That's who the other woman is in it. And also a couple of wee bits here and there towards the end of the show. Would I like to do it? Tim said, would you like to come and sing that song? So he sent me a tape of I Know Him So Well as a demo, which Benny and Bjorn had done in Sweden. So they sent it to me, and Tim said, would you do this? Well, I put it on, and it was an ABBA song.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, why wouldn't I like to do that? That's a no-brainer for me. So I flew to Stockholm and did my bit on that song. But long time after Elaine had been there, we didn't sing it together until I think we sang it on Top of the Pops.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, my God. Looking back on your career, Barbara, you must look back on it as a young girl up in Dunfermline with your guitar, singing in a few folk clubs. The journey that you have made and the ups and downs, it strikes me that you never went out seeking something, but something came to you. It was offered to you.
Well, do you know what I think it is, Gerry? And I honestly believe this is true. I didn't go up quickly, so I couldn't come down quickly.
It's a nice way of putting it.
I think I went up very, very slowly because I was always very cautious and tentative and turned down a lot of stuff that my management and record companies and people wanted me to do because I didn't want to do that. And I'm still here to this day and you know, touring at the beginning of next year, as you know, because of the fact that I haven't disappeared. I've never gone anywhere because I never went to the pinnacle of success.
But you don't miss that London lifestyle, that pop lifestyle.
Paul, who wants that? Have you ever been in the BBC recently? Everyone's about 12. I don't know about Radio Ulster, but in London, you walk through the door and it's radio and your hair's all standing on end. You've got your old clothes on and there's 25 people taking pictures of you for the social media. I'm thinking, hang on a minute. This isn't television.
So you're back to your roots, really, truthfully now.
Absolutely.
And I noticed your tour that I'm going to embarking on. It's called the Farewell Tour. Does it mean that?
It does.
Does it?
Yeah.
Is that you hanging up the guitar?
I think I'm not being coy, but I can't tell you exactly what it means, but it's the last tour ever with my band. And that's true. So there's 5 of us on stage and it is like a produced show. You know, they're big concerts. We're doing Manchester, Bridgewater and the Birmingham Town Hall, the big theatres everywhere. It's only 10 days. Sadly, we're not coming over here.
I know.
But we're doing 10 days and that's it. And people are expressing interest in the little show that I do with Nick Holland. And actually, I did come in February and appeared at the Opera House here with Anthony.
You did indeed.
And that was the smaller lineup.
So that's going to be the Barbara Dickson.
I think so. But
I think you're right. It's much more intimate.
And Oliver said to me, my husband said to me, look, just do what you want. You don't have to, there's no pressure. I haven't got a manager saying, oh, I think you need to get up. And I have managed to dodge the Royal Command performance my entire life. And I am not going to be on the Royal Command performance.
You can do whatever you like, Barbara.
It's certainly not that the Queen has died, because she was my favourite.
Right, so you're definitely not going to do it now. thank you so much for being with us tonight. And before you leave us, we would love you to sing one song for us, would you?
I would love to do that. I would love to.
Please. Well, look, there's a guy over there you might recognise. Would you like to make your way across and I'll introduce it? Barbara, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, James. And to
Okay, as Barbara makes her way across, can I tell you that she mentioned the fact that she's going to be playing with Anthony Toner. Anthony and her have been friends for quite a while now, and Anthony would play on her gigs and she would play at Anthony's gigs. And I'm delighted that Anthony has come down to play the guitar for her. So, as I say goodbye to Barbara Dickson, will you please welcome Barbara and Anthony Toner with one of Barbara's biggest hits, Caravan.
The early light is breaking, the morning sun is waiting in the sky, and I think I'm gonna break away and follow where the birds of freedom fly. I need to give, I need to live, for the world is slowly turning and the lights of love are burning in my eyes. Caravans, oh my soul is on the run over land. I am flying caravans, moving out into the sun. Oh, I don't know where I'm going, but I'm going. I wish I had the wisdom to find some simple words to make you see the things that mean a lot to you don't always seem to mean a lot to me. I need to breathe, I need to leave. When the sands of time go drifting by, I may be on my own, but I'll be free. Caravans, oh my soul is on the run over land. I am flying caravans, moving out into the sun. Oh, I don't know